Disappearance of Marilyn Bergeron from Quebec City, Quebec on February the 17th, 2008 is still being investigated. Marilyn was born in Chicoutimi. The family moved to the Quebec City borough of Haute St. Charles in 1998. Before then, at the age of 10, she began taking music lessons at Roger Comtos High School. Her mother, Andrea, recalls Marilyn always trying to get a band together. Later, she attended Neufchâtel High School, where she furthered her musical interests with extracurricular programs. In an interview with Claude Poirier, Bergeron's parents recalled her being as reckless sometimes, getting into trouble, and having friends who were bad influences. They also said she was open to and interested in all cultures and nationalities. She spoke English and her native French with equal fluency, had learned a little Spanish as well, and was starting to learn Russian. After earning a degree in media arts and technology at Cégep de Jonquière and later taking classes at the Jolet campus of the Cégep Régional de Lanaudière, Bergeron moved to Montreal in 2005. There she worked as a sales assistant in Steve's Music Store and did freelance sound editing work for local television stations. She was also training in finance at Industrial Alliance. Her hope was to become a flight attendant and move to Western Canada within a few years. Early in 2008, Marilyn began telling her family that she no longer felt safe in Montreal and wanted to return to Quebec. She told her mother that when she did, she would tell her why. On February 10th of that year, she abruptly left her apartment on Hochelaga Street in the Hochelaga Maisonneuve neighborhood of Montreal and returned to her parents' house. 6 days later, after two more trips to Montreal to retrieve her belongings from her apartment, she finally moved back in with her parents again. During that week, her family said it was obvious something was deeply troubling her. "Is there a light at the end of this tunnel?" she asked her sister Natalie on the phone. She said she did not want to return to Montreal again, but she wouldn't say why. "We tried to get her to talk, but she wouldn't. She would only cry." Natalie had told this to the media a year later. Andre Bouchard confronted her daughter about what had happened in Montreal. That so perturbed her that she had to return home and quickly leave the area for good. Marilyn specifically denied that her problems involved drugs, debts, or a relationship. When Andre then asked Marilyn if she had been assaulted, Marilyn said nothing, and her face took on a pained expression and she began crying. Andrea said that if she would not talk to her mother, she would have to talk to someone, and suggested she talk to a psychologist instead. On the morning of February the 17th, the day after she had finished relocating herself from Montreal, Marilyn told her parents she was going for a walk. She was wearing a long black overcoat with gray fur trim and suede boots. With the exception of her credit card, she left any other identification at home. Shortly after 11 a.m., Marilyn stopped at an ATM at the Caisse Populaire on Boulevard de L'Ouverture in Loretteville. Her attempt to withdraw $60 Canadian was declined. Security camera footage released later shows her looking behind her several times during the encounter. She also had a black backpack slung over one shoulder. At 4:03 p.m., Marilyn bought a cup of coffee at Café Depot in Saint Romuald, 20 kilometers or 12 miles south of her parents' home and the south side of the St. Lawrence River. She paid using her credit card, and the clerk who confirmed that Bergeron was the customer he served said that she seemed just depressed and eager to leave the store. No one has seen her since then, nor has her credit card been used. When Marilyn failed to return home by that evening, her family reported her missing to the Quebec police, who were soon able to track her banking records to the ATM and the coffee shop. They also began their efforts to locate her, searching the city themselves and printing up and distributing flyers with a picture and other information about Marilyn, including a visible tattoo when she wore low-cut tops. A Canadian $10,000 reward was being offered. Their efforts also included putting information online. Local media also covered the case extensively. The police would not at first let Marilyn's parents see the ATM security video. They considered it too upsetting to show them. When they did see it, Andrea agreed that her daughter looked helpless. Poirier, in an episode of the Historia series devoted to the case, visited the same ATM and believes that Marilyn may have been looking back at a parked car on the street outside, which she could easily have seen from that angle. While it is possible that she could have walked the entire 25 kilometers or 16 miles, the shortest route between her house and the Café Depot, her family believes it is most likely that she was driven by someone or hitched a ride. When police released the ATM video on the anniversary of Marilyn's disappearance a year later, they asked if anyone who might have driven her that day could remember it and come forward. After the initial searches, no new information came to light for almost 2 years. In January 2010, Poirier was contacted by a man who claimed to have seen Marilyn in Hawkesbury, Ontario, a predominantly francophone community just over the Ottawa River from Quebec. He claimed to have seen her regularly over the year before he had called. He believed she had settled there with a younger man and moved around town several times. Regular customers at a downtown restaurant also said they had seen her there with a man after being shown her photo. Several times during the 2010, the family made formal requests to the Provincial Ministry of Public Security to have the case formally transferred to the jurisdiction of either the Sûreté de Québec SQ or the Montreal Police. The former had province-wide jurisdiction and a reputation as Quebec's most capable law enforcement agency. The latter could investigate in Montreal, where they had come to believe Marilyn's friends and acquaintances from her life there might know more that might be helpful in resolving the case. While they did say the Quebec police had done their best, the Bergerons were also frustrated that the Quebec police continued to investigate the case strictly as a disappearance, possibly a suicide, and without considering the possibility of criminal involvement. Those requests were regularly rejected even after the Bergerons personally appealed to the then Minister Lise Thériault in a 2015 meeting. At a February 2017 news conference with former Provincial Justice Minister Marc Bellemare, whom they had retained as their lawyer, Bellemare joined them in expressing disappointment that all their requests to transfer the case or even to allow them to examine the file had been refused. Both the Quebec police and the SQ responded via the media. In this case, whenever required, the Sûreté de Québec offered its full cooperation and support to the Quebec City Police Service, they said. The Quebec City Police confirmed that they still saw the case as a disappearance, and yes, they take it seriously and had cooperated with other police services and done their best to keep the family involved and informed. The Bergerons announced that the reward for information leading to Marilyn's whereabouts had been increased to 30,000 Canadian dollars, and Bellemare announced also that he was setting up a tip line for people whom he believed might have useful information but did not want to contact the police directly. There are certainly people who know things about what happened to Marilyn, he said. What we want to find is Marilyn. That's our goal. At another press conference they held in that November, the Bergerons announced that the tip line had drawn 43 reported sightings of her, and they were accompanied by a man who had had the same conversations with Marilyn during her last months in Montreal. That went into further detail about why she left and felt that she had to leave the city and return home so abruptly. John Gauthier, a friend of Marilyn's from college, had reconnected with her in Montreal in late 2007. On December the 10th, he told the media that he had gone to meet her and go out to a party. At her apartment, he was immediately struck by the difference in Marilyn's demeanor. Instead of being cheerful and upbeat as she had been previously, Gauthier said she was downcast, listening to music in the dark. Marilyn's mood lifted somewhat when they went to the party, but then Gauthier continued, after talking to a friend of hers, Marilyn suddenly became anxious, as if that conversation had revived an unpleasant memory, and asked to go home. Back at her apartment, he said her mood further deteriorated and she began crying continuously. Attempting to calm her down, Gauthier asked her if she had been raped or witnessed a murder. She emphatically denied both. Instead, Marilyn told him something worse had happened. Gauthier asked her repeatedly what it was, but she refused to say. "You can't even begin to imagine what I've been through, Joe," she told him. "I tried to get her to say what it was for 3 or 4 hours," he said. "I got the impression that she didn't want to put me in danger." Marilyn Bergeron, a white female, was born on December the 21st, 1983, and has a distinctive Pegasus tattoo on her upper right breast. If you have any information on this case, please contact your local Crime Stoppers.